Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Saturday, June 6th. It's the weekend where I tend to go off course a little bit. Maybe. So I thought we would talk about how to make your life simpler. This should be fun. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, and this is the weekend. We do the weekday, Monday through Friday. It's available on podcast as well. Today is how to make our lives better. And the biggest thing that I see that has changed is like a lot of mental illness. It's not, all mental illness, but most comes from complexity. By making one's life too complex, too stressful, not getting enough sleep, not eating right, exercising, finding some quiet time, downtime, doing the things that you enjoy doing, whether going fishing, hiking, bowling, whatever it is that you get enjoyment from. See, the biggest thing that I see when I see someone that has a mental health problem is they don't have a mental health problem. They have a complexity problem. And the complexity problem is causing mental health signs. See, a lot of people that commit suicide do it so that they don't have to deal with the complexity of life anymore. It's become too complex. And death seems to be the easy way out. When in fact it's not. It's making your life less complex. And for most, it's they don't know how to decomplex their lives. Because it's like, what's next? I can't take anymore. How many times have you said that? I know I've said that a few times. And I that's the second part is not taking responsibility for your actions. Now, some complexity things in life are out of your control. And that is you could lose your job, lose your home, have a child with cancer, lose a spouse. Those things are complexity. Those things make someone start looking at, what next? I can't take it anymore. When in fact, I like the saying of the good Lord will not give you any more than you could take care of on your plate. And everything is a learning lesson. I can remember up through the years of, why does God take someone that's very young away from us? Why not just an old person instead of somebody young? But yet we have so much pediatric cancer. And why does God take anybody? And I had to come up with my own combination of why. And my theory on it is you're still here because you haven't learned what you needed to learn to go to the next level, or you're here to teach or help someone before you go. One or the other. Those that have gone before us have learned that lesson or have taught what needed to be taught. And you could say, well, what about a child? Well, the other thing I think is that if you don't learn everything when you get old, you come back and you redo. It's called a redo. I think as Buddhas say that you come back as reincarnation, right? But I think you come back as an animal, like a mouse or a rat or something like that, depending on how you treated other people in your life. If you have the mentality that there's nothing after death, then I could understand some reservations, okay? But I do believe there's something else. And I've had a lot of things in my life that gave sign that there is something else. And that the people that have gone before us are helping us on this side as well. Mentoring, pushing us, you can hear their voice, where it's in your head, but you can hear them, you know what they're going to say. And I can remember when my grandmother passed. She was the last one on my side of the family that passed away so far. And I remember sitting in my living room by myself. It was a single wide trailer, 50 foot long. And I was sitting there, and at the minute she passed, all the lights in that trailer that were on started glowing, and then they popped. They quit working. And it didn't dawn on me until later that afternoon when they got word to me our grandmother had passed at 11:20 that morning. That was the exact time that all the light bulbs blew and then blew. It was her sign telling me I'm in a better place and I'm moving on. Yeah. But let's go back to complexity, and responsibility. I constantly hear people say they want a better life, but yet they aren't willing to do anything to make it a better life. What am I saying? I'm saying that people want certain things. Well, I want to be rich. All right. Go find a trade or something that you can become rich at. No, I just want to be rich. Everybody wants something for nothing. The day's work, a hard day's work, a little bit of sweat on the brow, will never hurt anybody. But nobody is willing to put in the time or the effort to get what they want. They just want it and they think it should be freely given. In case in point, through COVID, with the government just handing out crap, and after COVID, post, they were still paying people for nothing, for doing nothing. So those people became very irate when they quit paying them for doing nothing. You have to own and be responsible. You have to own what's going on in your life. If you have a lot of complexity, then we need to just decomplex. Take some things off your plate that you don't really need to worry about. It could be as minor as you got a house payment, a truck payment, car payment, and 2 kids in college, or let's say 1 kid in college. And you still don't make enough money to break even. What's the answer? Well, you could ask the child to take on some part-time work in between classes to help offset the cost. That's what most people, they don't have a lot of money, that when their child goes to college, that the child works and pays their own way. You could try to find a smaller home with a smaller price tag on it, sell yours, and downsize. You can get vehicles that aren't as new, that aren't brand new, that still will do what you want it to do. See, there's things that you can do to decomplex what's going on with you and to get you, where you need to be. But most people aren't willing to put forth the effort. They live with the complexity of life and being overwhelmed. In life, you have to be responsible. That's something I was taught from a child. Is you need to own what part you play in things. You need to be honest. And you need to be responsible. And a lot of things, I'll be honest with you, a lot of those things didn't really ring true until later in my childhood. And in my class, none of the kids had part-time jobs or worked during the summer. I did. Because even though my grandmother was a school teacher and my grandfather was a millwright at a paper factory, even though they did have decent paying jobs, they required me to learn that if you want something, you need to put forth an effort. You need to be the responsible person. If you want that 22 or that BB gun, you need to figure out how to earn the money to get it. It wasn't just freely given. Because you're not teaching a child anything by just giving them money, giving them an allowance. That's a good thing. When my kids were young, they got an allowance. But they got an allowance because the yard was mowed, calves were fed, bedded up, rooms were clean. They had to earn it. And I think that's what's been lacking for the last 30 to 40 years is parents aren't teaching their children to be responsible. It's not my fault that X, Y, and Z. You can say it's not my fault I lost my job. Well, how did you lose your job? Was it because of cutbacks? All right, so if they had cutbacks, why'd they get rid of you instead of somebody else? Because I can tell you from HR side, they're going to keep the people that are doing the most performance and are the key people in that mechanism. And they're going to get rid of all the dead weight. So if you're just taking up space, yep. Sayonara. You're gone. And I've seen people that no matter what will not accept responsibility for it. I have a friend that's an attorney and pretty well to do. And his kids are older, about my age. And most of them are well to do. But one thing I learned from my lawyer friend, he said, never admit to anything. Never accept responsibility for anything. And that's coming from a lawyer, right? I can understand that if you get pulled over by the police for a speeding ticket, just take the speeding ticket. But he's saying don't even admit to that. And he's instilled in his kids. And I can remember a few years back that there was an issue with, because they had a camp, and in the fall of the year, one of them was responsible for turning the water off and draining all the system out so they wouldn't have any bursted pipes. Well, that fall, he forgot to do it. And then in the spring, not only did he forget to do it, but he forgot to shut the water off. That spring, they had water damage galore on drywall and stuff of where the pipes went in the bathrooms and all that. And since had been up there doing something with their docks and stuff, the blame was put onto me that I had somehow turned the water on. And I knew I had, because I hadn't been anywhere near camp. I stayed out. And only later when I went up to help the one that was trying to fix the repairs, only then did he admit that it was him. But in that family, you never admit to being wrong, to doing anything, and that's how you go through life. And I'm here to tell you that's not how you go through life. You can go through life like that. But how many true friends are you going to have if you're not willing to accept responsibility for your actions? If it's always somebody else. That makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to start wrapping this up. What it boils down to is a lot of things in life that get you to the point of where you can't take anymore, or feel like you can't take anymore, are complexity issues. You've made your life too complex, all right? And, with the mortgage and the 2-car payments and the kids in college, you could take on another job, right? But isn't that adding to the complexity? And you can argue, well, no, because now with a second job, I can afford to have my kids in college. I can stay where I'm at and still drive the vehicles that I have. I'm not making money, but I'm breaking even. Okay, so you've made their life easier. But what about yours? Well, I just told you that I don't have, but now you don't have any time. And been there, done that, of the feeling of it's time to make the donuts every time you wake up. And you work until you go to sleep. And sleep is limitless, limitful. And that I used to run on 3 to 4 hours a day. I can't do it anymore. And even then, it was taking a toll on the body of only getting 3 to 4 hours of sleep. What I found is I decomplexed my life, because the complexity was becoming too much. I didn't have time for anything. I couldn't enjoy the fruits of my labor. I always said that I could down the road once I got to where I needed to be, but I never felt like I was where I needed to be, so I kept adding more complexity to my life. So I had to decomplex, all right? Because what's going to end up happening is if you don't decomplex, you're going to start not eating right, getting enough sleep. Your body's going to start letting you know that it's becoming too much. Mental health, signs will start to come out. And you may find yourself in that dark place that you don't want to be in. Accept responsibility for your actions. Use common sense. And make it so that you're enjoying life. I always used a friend of mine that only had one job, and it was an 8-hour day job, Monday through Friday. He was always fishing, on the weekends, at night, after work. He loved fishing. And I envied him so much. And I had a beautiful boat, but I never had time for it. And he said, why don't you just go out and go fishing with your boat? Because I don't have time. Well, why don't you have time? Well, because I'm trying to earn enough money to pay all the bills. Well, reduce the bills. You don't need that fancy boat that you never use. You could buy a simple rowboat like I do with a 9.9 engine on it and then go just about any place to go fishing. And he had a point. He decomplexed his life where I hadn't. I was adding complexity to my life. Better to learn now than it is when it's too late. Because we can't lose one more of you. So on that note, you guys have a great Saturday, a great weekend. Do some things that you enjoy doing. And if you find you don't have time for it, maybe it is time for you to decomplex. On that note, catch you later in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.